What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down how you can run a slant route. So we're going to be showing how you can run a slant route versus 3 specific types of press coverage. So I hope this video is able to help you out. Hope it could give you some value. This first example here is going to be a clip from Christian Watson at the Senior Bowl before he got drafted by the Packers. And this is actually a bad example of how you would want to run a 3-step slant versus an inside shade press coverage guy. And then we're going to show a correct example of this exact same release versus the exact same coverage. So conceptually, Christian Watson does it correctly here. He's going to be working something called the diamond release. So anytime that you have a DB who's lined up inside shade press, his goal is to not let us run to the inside. He does not want us to run a slant, a dig, a post. He wants to force everything to the outside, force everything specifically to the sideline because the sideline is his help. He is taught, do not give up the inside. So as a receiver, like let's say, for example, you were running like a 10-yard post. If I had this look where this DB was inside shade, what I wouldn't want to do is try to give him a move and then force the inside release because this DB is going to get hands, and he's taught not to give up that inside release. So my route's going to end up way over the middle. So what I'd want to do is I'd want to attack his leverage inside, work to the outside, and try to stack him, which essentially means where this DB is trailing behind my back hip as a wide receiver. So when I get to the post, I could throw a fake outside and then run my post and get some separation. So if I have to run a 3-step slant, I don't exactly have the time to do that, as a 3-step slant is going to take you to about 4 to 5 yards. So I have to do something different. So instead of trying to stack him, what I want to do is my goal is to get him to open up his hips and think that I'm just running a vertical, think that I'm running a fade off of a speed release. Now, Christian Watson does that, but he makes a cardinal sin at the receiver position, which is reaching on his cuts, which raises his pad level, which is something called an indicator. So, like, again, he does this correctly. He gives like a little move to the inside here to maybe make that DB think that he's trying to freeze him inside and then take off to the outside. So he actually does a good job of getting that DB to open up. He got his hips to open up. And remember, it's 3 hard steps to that outside shoulder and outside hip of the DB. The reason why they call it a diamond release is because if you were to draw a diamond or think of like a baseball diamond, it's like that 45-degree angle, if you will. So when he takes off, he goes 1, 2, but on the 3rd step, you see how he reaches and kind of over-exaggerates his cut, right? He throws this outside hand up in the air. The first part of his foot to hit the ground is his heel, then his toe slaps down. And when that foot's outside of his frame, his back foot starts to drag, and that slows down the cut. You're not going to cut fast when your feet are outside of your shoulder frame. So that DB is able to put the brakes on, open up, and be able to recover on this thing. So guys, what we should have done, and we're going to show a correct example of this in a second, is take those 3 steps, but when he cuts, he doesn't need to reach. He doesn't need to over-exaggerate it. He just needs to step down. First part of his foot that should hit the ground is the ball of his foot. And if the ball of your foot hits the ground first, that means that you're not reaching outside of your frame. So that's what he should have done here. It's hard to think about, obviously, when you're in a live one-on-one setting, but it's good for you guys to see, so when you practice this, you don't make this mistake. So I'm going to play it again full speed. So conceptually, this was right, but mechanically, it was wrong. That's the thing about the receiver position. You have to be able to do both. You have to be able to have the concept down, but you also have to be able to have the mechanics down. Now, anytime that I post a comparison clip, everybody always gets upset at me because they're like, oh, well, you're showing a college player and then you're showing a pro player. That's not fair. You know, like the pro player is obviously going to do it better. So here's an example of a high school player doing this exact same release and the college player or the now pro player doing it wrong. But this is a high school player doing it correctly. So for anybody that says that, oh, the comparison's not fair, this is pretty much for you guys. But before we get into this, you guys, if you are a receiver or a quarterback watching this and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we're going to be traveling out to 8 more cities across the entire country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, guys, we're going to be coming out to Chicago. Then we'll be heading out to Newark, New Jersey, Birmingham, Alabama, Houston, Texas, Boston, Massachusetts, Columbus, Ohio, Boise, Idaho, and finishing off our camp tour in Los Angeles, California. So, guys, want some more information, want to learn how you can sign up, go to that very first link in the description below. As you can see, all of our camps on the left side have been sold out. They've sold out probably 2 months in advance. So, guys, we only have about 3 to 4 spots left remaining in all of our camps. Our Chicago camp is sold out, but the rest of the camps, guys, literally only 3 to 4 more spots available. So if you guys would like to attend, again, very first link in that description below. We'd love to have you there. We limit spots just so every athlete can get individualized coaching and individualized attention. So, guys, very first link in that description below. Again, let's get back to this video. So, same idea, right? DB's line up inside shade. He's going to be taking this diamond release. Now, watch what he does here. He gives this little, like, kind of shuffle like Watson did, but there's no indicator. He just breaks, drops his hips a little bit, and we're going to talk about why that's okay. And then he's able to get separation and ultimately score here. So, let's talk about it, right? Whenever a DB, guys, is in man-to-man coverage, where are his eyes supposed to be? His eyes are supposed to be watching our hips. So if we do that, like, see how he comes off the ball? If we, like, reach way out there with that outside foot, not only is that going to make my cut slower and allow him to recover, but the second you reach, you start to, like, lean back, you start to raise a little bit taller, and that raises your hips. So that's something called an indicator to the DB. We can't give an indicator to the DB, you guys. It needs to look the same. Your body language, your speed, and your stride length all need to be the same from the start of the route until the break, which is off of those 3 steps. So he comes off of here, 1, 2, 3, and he actually takes like 5 steps. So maybe a little bit longer developing of a slant. This could be like your second step and your third step if you're being super, super picky about it. But notice how he breaks on his inside foot, not his outside foot. That is okay as long as you're driving out of the break and you are accelerating fast. Would I like him to break off of his outside foot? Probably, just so you could push off of this outside foot and open up and go. But still, I wanted you guys to see this example because there's no indicator. He's not reaching. He's cutting and both of his feet are inside of his frame because that DB has absolutely no clue when the break is coming. If your pad level stays the same, your stride stays the same, and your speed stays the same all the way up until the break, especially on a diamond release, that's how you could get separation. So that's how, guys, you would run a slant versus inside shade press. Diamond release, make sure there's no indicator, make sure you're not reaching, and you're trying to make that DB think we're running a fade. So now, let's talk about a situation where we have head-up press. So anytime you have to run a slant versus head-up press, any route versus head-up press, generally as a receiver, I like picking a release where you can react off of the DB because you never know how he's going to play when he's in head-up press. He might stay in head-up, he might shade to the inside, or he might shade to the outside. You never know how he's going to play. But generally, a thought process as a wide receiver, you don't want to come up to line and be like guessing. You don't want to come to the line and be like, okay, is he going to jump inside? Is he going to jump outside? What should I do? Because then you're starting to think too much and you play slow. You need to come up to the line of scrimmage and have a plan of action based on the DB's leverage, based on how far he is, and just based on just how he's playing you, right? Coverage, leverage, distance. Those are the 3 things that we look for. And so that's how you come up with your plan. Now, if that DB tries to take away our plan, we have to be able to react on a dime as a wide receiver. That's why it's always good as receivers to work reactionary drills. A lot of times what I'll do with my receivers is I'll put like, well, let's say we have a group session of receivers. We have like 4 guys out there. We'll have a receiver here and then like a receiver showing a DB look and like I'll be over here off to the right. I'll tell the DB what to do. We'll be doing a specific release and then I'll tell the DB, hey, jump to outside leverage. And then if we're doing like a little slide release and that DB jumps, then it's on the receiver to be able to react fast and go to the inside. It's always good to train reaction as a receiver. But if we have to run a slant and we see head up press, my mindset as a receiver needs to be, I'm going to take the inside release. I'm going to get super skinny, which means run tight to this DB and try to lean into him, which means like you're just leaning your body into him. So when you decide to cut off of your 3rd step, it's almost like you're pushing off without pushing off. You're pushing off with your body, but you got to give him some type of release. So you give him some type of move outside, or you could do something called a split release, which is what this receiver does. And a split release is great to be able to react if the DB takes away what we're trying to do. So let's watch this wide receiver play full speed. So he splits, takes the inside release, gets skinny, and then is able to win on that slant route. So let's talk about it, right? So when he does a split release is exactly how it sounds. You're just splitting your feet, aka both feet are coming to balance and hitting the grass at the exact same time. So your front foot goes out and your back foot goes straight up. So he goes here. Both feet hit at the same exact time. Now, when we do this split, we're in a position of balance. We can react off of this DB. How is he going to play? And it's a split-second reaction. This DB stays head up. Okay, cool. I want to release inside. Anytime you have head-up press and you have an inside breaking route like a post, a dig, a curl, a slant, my mindset is I want to take the inside release unless the DB takes it away. So if we were to do this split release and let's say the DB jumps to the inside and takes away the inside release because both feet are in the grass, you could just push off this inside foot and take the outside release. No problem. So when you split, it's split second though, guys. It happens fast. That's why it's important that you need a lot of reps of this specific release. So we do this split. Now, what if the DB were to jump to the inside? We could just do a diamond release, right? So you could have that reactionary plan where you still take 3 steps. Now you're just going at his outside shoulder and outside hip if he takes it away. But we split. He stays head up. All right, cool. I'm going to take the inside release. I'm going to get skinny and break this thing off. So that's how you would run a 3-step slant, guys, versus head up press. Easy money. Don't have to do a diamond release. A diamond release could work, but it's not the best one, I would say. I would say it's not the easiest one. You always want to take the path of less resistance or least resistance when you're doing your releases. Make things easy on yourself. Our separation comes at the top of the route. Releases, we're just trying to keep spacing and keep timing with the QB. Now, this is an example of a DB who's about 2 to 3 yards away. We call that catch technique, and he's inside shade, but here's the kicker. This is in the goal line. So it's not going to work putting your head down and doing some type of diamond release where you take 3 hard steps because we're in the red zone. This is, I know you guys can't see this, but this is the 10-yard line, and that is the goal. You can kind of see how that's the end zone right there. So what Amari Cooper does is he sells how he would run a goal line fade. So how would you run a goal line fade versus this specific look? Because that's what we got to sell. You got to make sure that whenever you're running a fade, you kind of make it look a little bit like your slant in a sense. Sometimes. And now if you're running a slant, you have to make it look like how you would run a fade. So if you had this specific look and you had to run a 3-step slant, well, actually, let's say this. Let's say you had to run a back pylon goal line fade. What you would do is you would attack the DB's leverage, you would close space, you give them some type of move inside, and then you go to the fade. So what we could do on our slant is we could close space, attack his toes, attack his leverage, give him some type of crossover fake, make it look like I'm running that goal line fade, and then run my slant. Now, some of you might say, well, wouldn't I close the space? Then I could do a diamond release. You could, but that might take too long if it's a 3-step slant. So let's watch what Amari Cooper does here. He closes the space, move to the outside, gets that DB to jump, and then is able to win on that slant. The only thing you got to be careful of here is that if you run your slant, and the spacing of the play is off. If you have a slot receiver also running a slant and your slant ends up and you're right on top of him, we can't do this release and you're better off maybe doing something more like a slide to the outside and then giving a fake to the outside rather than attacking him and closing space towards the inside leverage. But that's, again, great release here from Amari Cooper. Close the space. Biggest thing I would say, this is not a release that you have to do. But when you're running a slant versus a goal in the goal line, in the red zone, 10-yard line in, you have to make it look like how you would run your goal line fade. A lot of receivers, what they like to do here, they like to do a slide release. So what they'll do on a fade route is they'll slide, take off, and go. So what we could do is we could slide, give a crossover fake, DB jumps, and then run the slant. We posted that before on this channel as well. But this is a great example of making his slant on the red zone look like his goal line or red zone fade from Amari Cooper.